this video, we're looking at 3 different tiny houses from the international version of Amazon.com, and they're chosen based on their features, size, and price, as they represent 3 different categories. Without further ado, let's get started. Alright, so let's look at the first house that I've found here. I'm gonna try to pronounce the name of the seller, which is Weisheng. Yeah, I think that's how it's said. And it's basically an expandable module container house with solar energy, which is really cool, and I'll get back to that in a moment. But first of all, let's just take a quick tour of the house. And as you see here, this is from the outside. Then there are some pictures of the blueprint. Unfortunately, they're quite small, so it's kind of hard to see exactly how big it is, but I'm gonna get back to that in a moment. And here you see it from the other side. So this looks like the main entrance. Up here you can basically see the solar panels, which are really, really cool. And the doors. So it looks like you can get a lot of fresh air in as well. Actually, when I look at this house, it reminds me a little bit of a greenhouse, the way it's sort of the shape and everything. But obviously it's not a greenhouse, and hopefully it's not as warm. And here you see the bathrooms. So apparently it is very small, but of course it's a tiny house, but it still looks like it has showers, so that's super nice. And here's a bit of storage space, and it even looks like it has air conditioning up here, which is probably powered by the solar energy, which is pretty cool as well. And if you look at the price, first of all, it is clear that this is a bit pricey, right? I do think that this is quite expensive for the amount of square footage or square meters you get. However, I'm sure this is priced according to the fact that it has these eco-friendly features such as solar energy, as it says here. And also, if you look in the description, it will tell you it has a wind power system on top of the house. Now, unfortunately, this is not visible from the pictures. I'm not sure if they have a little windmill or something, but let's believe them. Another feature that makes this house really special is the fact that it is expandable. So basically it can be folded back together so that it takes up less space, if that's something that's important to you. And basically they give you a remote control that can then control this house. Regarding the size, it looks like it is maybe 20, maybe 30 square meters when it is folded out, but it could also be smaller. It's a bit hard to tell. Let's just take a look at the reviews on this page, because they are quite funny. If you look down here, you can see someone who says that they lost the remote, so the remote control of the house, and since they lost the remote, the entire house is useless now. I can't even get in. So that's quite unfortunate, but also quite funny. And the second guy who points out that his dinner parties are a bit crowded now. Yes, that is one of the disadvantages of having a tiny house, unless you only want to invite a very small amount of people. So all in all, this house is a good option for you if you don't mind paying a bit more, if you care about the eco-friendly aspects, and if you like the fact that you can fold it back together so that it takes up less space. All right, so let's have a look at the next tiny house, and now we're in a completely different price range. As you can see here, it's a lot cheaper than the first one we looked at, and unfortunately it is not as cute and it doesn't have as many features, but let's get back to that in a moment. So first of all, let's just have a quick tour. This is what it looks like. So it looks pretty standard. Looks almost a little bit like a shed. Let's talk about the size of this house. So as you can see here, it is almost 76 square meters. Now, some people will say that this is not a tiny house because tiny houses are usually a lot smaller. However, if you come from a really, really big house, then of course having to move into 76 square meters, especially if you are several people, well, it's still going to be somewhat of a downsizing project. And one thing that is cool about this house is you get quite a lot of square footage, as in space, for the money, because this is quite cheap actually. Okay, let's take a look at this cute nomad micro home, modular tiny home. So the first thing you notice here is that this is a super cute little house, and let's just do a tour real quick. So as you see here on the first image, it has a terrace, which is super cool if you live near nature, of course. Let's have a look on the insides. As you can see here in the pictures that they showcase, this is definitely a high-end kind of tiny house with the materials they've used and everything. It looks really nice. And the kitchen also looks quite high-end. And even though, unfortunately, they don't show it, I imagine that the upper floor is the bedroom. As you can see, there's a staircase here. So unfortunately, again, they don't actually list how large the house is. Like down here, if you look in the description. It says 4,500 kilograms. Okay, that doesn't say much about the house, but if you look at it, I imagine that it is around maybe 10, 15 square meters each floor, so maybe 25, 30 square meters in total. And let's also talk about the price. So again, here we're dealing with a quite expensive tiny house, at least if you look at it from the perspective of size. Now, those were the tiny houses for today. On the free info channel, we talk about interesting real estate topics, so don't forget to subscribe to stay tuned. Thank you for watching and have a nice day.